Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Let's get it on.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, hello, everybody.
Hello. Should I do a shameless plug for the show that we did yesterday, given the amount of grief I got to get it all published? Hence I'm not on camera, because I look and feel like crap. I was up till about 3 in the morning editing videos, because several people voted that it was extremely advisable to get it out immediately, where I was like, no, I want to get it out to the members first. And they were like, no, it must be published now. There we go. It got published, but it's just at my detriment, so hence I'm looking like crap. I'm feeling like crap. But there we go. I'll plug it because it was a lot of work. So out on my main channel is an edited version of a discussion between Bev Trythinking and FED. So there's a few of his sycophants hanging around, along with him and his panties being in a twist over a claimed ad hom that we'd used. He wanted to figure out what we were having an issue with. So he explained his nonsensical assertions of not being able to do things with angles. And it transpired halfway through the discussion that he was basically lying through his back teeth about what he did and didn't know, because he confessed or disclaimed to 10th Man much, much earlier how his knowledge of the use of an angle could gain you your latitude position, or your latitude. And he just lied about it, just played dumb, kept doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on his assertion that you can't do anything with an elevation angle. I won't use the language he uses, but that's the essential key of token of what he was asserting, and it's nonsense. So we took it apart. The reason for his nonsense is to undermine us. There's no other reason. He said it to me personally. It hasn't been published, so can't talk too much about the material that Bev records on his show. He's more than welcome to keep his material and do whatever the hell he likes with it. It's his, but he hasn't published it, so I can't criticize him in regards to his assertions to me personally about not being able to do anything with an elevation angle, while I'm explaining to him how you use it at sea to find your position if you're lost, subsequently saving lives. But there we go. So that nonsense was done away with. And yeah, that's out as a clip on, what would it be, my main channel. And then just because of the way the scheduling fell, it's the main, however long it is, nearly 3 hours, I believe, show over on my second channel. So if you're not already subscribed to my second channel, go and subscribe, and you can watch that full show unedited. Or if you're less inclined to spend several hours in front of a show, which is perfectly reasonable, you can spend 12 minutes in front of the abridged version, or whatever you want to call it, the edited version, which is on my main channel. If you're watching that live now, obviously don't go and watch it now, but after the fact, go and check it out. It's called simply Bev Trythinking versus FED. So you can go check that out. Shameless plug. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon.
Well, you'll be happy to know. Hang on.
No, we're going to forego. Let's just decide now.
You'll be happy to...
Let's decide now. If we're going to forego housekeeping
no,
to
I
discuss
just want to tell you.
I just don't want to constantly be interrupting with housekeeping questions.
No, we're not going to forego housekeeping. I'm trying to say, I knew you were going to be tired, so I gave you an easy Brian Cox reaction video. So when you're ready, it's going to be an easy one. Short.
Okay. But you don't want to forego housekeeping. I agree. I want to do it. We haven't done it for days.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Let's try and remain reasonably concise, but we do want to get through it. Okay? Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon? I'd try it without laughing.
No.
Hold on, not that concise. I've got to get it out without laughing once. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No. Next.
Well, if they're gonna assume a sphere and say it's our reality, they're gonna need that measurement, and it needs to be geometric, and it's not. It's all optical. It's all. I mean, their only excuse is refraction every time, which is like a get out of jail card for them. Yeah, normal refraction. Lots of things happen with it, but they got 7/6R refraction, which is assuming the globe already. So everything about this is one little magic trick.
Yeah, they did used to claim the horizon was the Earth curve, but then that's been debunked with the black swan photography, which disproves that totally. So that's been debunked 2020.
Is there any evidence that
I
level?
wouldn't even say at this point.
Sorry.
I'm gonna drop and rejoin. I got a delay. I'll be back.
Any evidence that level is not horizontal?
Well, I was putting some fencing up the other day and using a water level to get horizontal. So I don't know how you could understand that level wasn't horizontal in real life scenarios, especially.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No evidence whatsoever.
Any evidence?
Once they beg the question of a presupposed
Go ahead.
once they beg the question of a presupposed spherical Earth, then they can make up stuff like what's at the center, but they have no evidence.
And what is a molten iron core anyway, Tent? What would that look like?
Molten iron core, just molten iron, I guess, but
Yeah, what are you asking, Neil?
I don't know.
I mean, what does it look like? Like a pit in the center of a peach that's molten iron? Is that what they're saying it is?
You've seen the high school books, right, Neil?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
okay.
like
Not for a long time.
it's just making stuff up, Neil.
Okay, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No,
Why? Well, ho. Haven't
They
you
don't-
read your high school books, Nathan? It tells you 93 million miles away.
Yeah, but that value needs R, and we've debunked R.
also tells you molten iron core.
Also needs R, technically speaking.
That's right. It needs all.
It looks
Where'd you
about
get
as far
that
as the
R?
moon.
Say again, John? One more time, John? Refractive curvature, John?
You can measure the angle to the sun, an elevation angle. That's quite useful.
Very. Go on, John, one more time.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, did you not?
I think it was
It was G. I said that it looks about as far as the moon.
Yeah. They look about the same size. Yes. Okay, that's really a plug, really, isn't it, for the... I'm not even going to attempt it. Bad Moon Shadow. I was going to belt it out, but I think that'd sound too bad.
Shadow.
What?
Belt it out.
Gene was talking about the radius with the black swan would extend to the moon.
Yeah, no, I get that, but
Me and Brian was talking about it.
I just used it as a segue anyway, just because recently we've been talking about the moon and moon dials and how the full moon needs no correction in terms of its time ability. And if
I'm
you're going
not that smart. I didn't ask that.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I didn't understand that. But me and Brian was talking yesterday.
the bad moon shadow doesn't deal with the distance to the sun as much as its size and the moon's size and the shape of the world we stand on. It might be another housekeeping question.
I absolutely think it'll turn into a housekeeping question,
Ooh.
which is why I wanted to drop it in just whenever I heard anything about the moon. It's like, right, that's an opportunity to drop in bad moon shadow. So check it out, Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. It's all time stamped up because it's a very lengthy. It's a bit like the introduction to the Black Swan back in 2020. So it's a lengthy, detailed description of not only the progress of the argument so far, but how the argument all ties up with Eratosthenes and the original globe Earth assertions, how they pad out, how it's debunked with the bad moon shadow. So check that out. It's on Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. There's a, like I say, time stamped up. So if you go to the comments, I can't remember who to give them credit, but somebody went in as requested by me on the show when it was being made to time stamp up the key parts so that you don't have to sit through a 3-hour show. You can just go to the main parts, and they're relatively concisely time stamped as well. So go and check that out if you want to know what we're talking about, because obviously it's not just a 2-minute thing to drop in. It's not been developed into a housekeeping yet, but I want it to be. I really do. It's got to be. I just don't want it to fade away, and that's why we've got housekeeping, right? So we never, lest we forget the gas pressure without a container argument. Any evidence thereof?
Hold on, Nathan, you forgot the main thing. Why are you telling him to go to a quick timestamp? If you listen to the whole thing, there's this new pop star with an amazing voice called Quantum Eraser singing in the beginning. You gotta check it out.
In the interest of balance, I would suggest you don't do that.
Come on, he did a good job with that.
And when Brian gets here, I think he has a couple of, me and him bounced a few ideas back and forth yesterday, but I think he has a couple formulations of the question he was wanting to run by everybody.
I just want to publicly apologise to my panel. So yesterday, whilst getting annoyed with Bev, it's very difficult when you are actually annoyed as opposed to just hamming it up for dramatic sake. Well, yesterday, Bev was genuinely irritating, and my annoyance and frustration with him at various points of the show was taken out on my panel when I'm telling them to shut up and swearing at them. So I just want to publicly apologise to all of you, right? And the guy, Rob Keane, who's very much on our side, was just probably trying to get something in, but because I'm full of rage and fury, I just took it out on whoever was talking, including my own panel, a guy who's very supportive of the show. And while, yeah, we did get to the end and I could defend my rather disgusting actions towards my own panel and supporters of the show, I'd rather just apologise and say, okay, right, my excuse is that it's hard to separate it when you're really angry. So that's my excuse, but there is no excuse. I'm sorry. So I just want to do that publicly now before I forget. And before anybody can respond, shout out to Godzilla 37.
Now that you've accepted fault, I can begin my attack on you.
Oh, God, here we go. Baller tactics.
Yeah, I had to wait until you admitted.
That's a very interesting point, right?
Why?
Oh, I can't remember who it was. There was a certain celebrity. I think it was Johnny Depp to that model from the 80s, late 80s and 90s. British girl, Kate Moss. And his explanation, right? Let me just read out Godzilla 37's chat because my kid's getting annoyed that she can't play Minecraft. Although Although Bev is very pedantic, to say the least, his point was in context of strict geometry. If the teacher only gave you one single angle, say 23 degrees, you could do nothing with that alone. No, I agree, Godzilla, but we contextualise it with things like the word elevation prior to the angle to describe precisely what you're doing, and have contextualised it on multiple occasions to Bev about it being in regards to navigation and measurement of elevation angles and areas of equal elevation. So yes, once you oversimplify it in an attempt to undermine us, then that's going to get addressed, and we'll point out again that we're not just talking about, quote, an angle in an oversimplified attempt to undermine us. But yeah, if you want to be pedantic, yeah, I suppose you could weasel out of it like that way that Bev has attempted to.
Bev knows this.
I can establish my longitude with an angle. Quote, Bev's try thinking.
Okay.
Latitude.
Go on.
Was it latitude instead of longitude?
Yeah, it's latitude. But here's the thing. You know what we're using it for. The sextant
Exactly.
for navigation, from GP to GP of the luminary as well as the GP of the observer to have a fix, to know where you are when there's no landmarks. You know the context in which we're saying it. And then to oversimplify it to the minutest point and say, that's the way we've been contextualizing it for over 2 years? Are you kidding me? Every time we said it, it had to do with navigation. So there's no way to separate the angles from navigation if you've been following the show with slides and text and books and videos. Everyone's contributed, done videos, and then to just say you can't do anything with an angle when you know what we're doing it for and with. I don't understand. It's like
That's the frustrating
greatest
part.
flat earth proof there ever was.
That's the frustrating part. I agree. He knows exactly what we're doing here, and he's trying to undermine it. That's what's annoying about it.
I mean, if someone presented the greatest proof for something, we'd be sharing it.
Exactly.
That's about being that's about having the whole truther experience, is to seek the truth.
But yeah, again, a shameless plug. You can check out the abbreviated version or the edited version on Nathan Oakley 1980 if you don't want to sit through 3 hours of this discussion where we basically prove Bev's a liar. So, if you want to check that out, feel free. That's a shortened version. There'll be another one that's out for members only. I'll release that one at the weekend, where one of his white knights attempted to back up and affirm his nonsensical assertion that you can do nothing with an angle. So he got his ass handed to him as well. That's SE Montreal, but that'll come out at the weekend, probably for the general public. But if you're a member, you can watch that now. Become a Nathan Oakley 1980 member if you want to see it early.
When are we up to the housekeeping questions? Are we done?
No, I know you
Hang
can
on,
hear me
without-
now.
You guys hear that, Eli? Hello? Can you hear
20
Eli?
minutes.
Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in for 20 minutes. I thought someone would say, "Oh, hey, Eli, my bad," but I figured maybe my headphones suck, so I disconnected.
Something going on with the audio. I don't know what it is today. It's either me not being sharp enough. I don't know. Something's
I
going
didn't
on.
hear you, Eli.
Go ahead anyway.
Is it bad still?
No, you
might
sound
have to
better than
come out
ever,
of the Discord.
surprisingly. Yes.
Oh yeah, I had to disconnect my headphones. I'm just tired of them. Like there's nothing I can do but get new ones. Yeah, I just don't understand how, not even how, why people would defend Bev after the clarity of yesterday. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe we can be assholes about how we address it, but I mean, we're justifiably mad, and we're saying the reason we're mad is because the argument's here being undermined by somebody trying to simplify our position. Somebody who we've explained our position to, and that's why we're mad. So moving away from focusing on that, what exactly is the argument that you're supporting them in? Because that's what Adam was trying to get to when he was asking him what specifically was it that QE said that you take issue with, so we can address it openly and publicly, so that you can be justified in coming here. And then if there's something to be apologized for, then obviously that would be reasonable. But did the conversation ever get there? No.
That's a good point,
So-
Eli. I was waiting for that.
But in regards to your first part of the question, I can't divine their motivations. I can just show that they're wrong. Like with anything or anyone that comes here, claims being anything, you can just attack them based on their merits, and that's it. Obviously, if there's a personal issue that they want to go through, like Adam was trying to drag out of him, it's like, yeah, well, we need to get down to the nitty-gritty of what it is you take issue with. Now, we never got there. It was just, well, it's just the general way of on the video. Well, what specifically? Well, just go and watch the video. Well, yeah, we made the video. That's the kind of nonsense that we have to deal with in that regard. But who cares? And same goes for motivation. Who cares? It's like, this is what they're saying. You can't do anything with an angle. Now, if you have to take 3 hours to get them to the point of absurdity where one of their own claims and understandings, in this case, the acquisition of your latitude with Polaris, then that's using an angle. And something that Bev has discussed, and it was embarrassing and humiliating for him for 10th to come along and go, hey, Bev, do you remember when you told me on the show about getting your latitude with just an angle? That completely obliterates his attempt to undermine our arguments with elevation angle measurements. He's oversimplified them to the point where he's contradicting himself. But that's what he's prepared to do in just an attempt to undermine us. To the point where his own stupid nonsense that he definitely understands in regards to, an area of equal elevation when measuring an angle to Polaris. That's what it is. He'll just deny that. No, you can't do anything with an angle. Why? Because we're talking about angles and using them in our arguments specifically. All right. Well, gee, thanks. No, well, once you come here to moan about us calling you a wanker for that, you'll get told exactly why you're a wanker, and your wankery will be pointed out to an audience with the way it contradicts your own confessions that you hid and lied to the audience about when we were asking you about what you understood about Polaris and its use in mapping. Bev played dumb, in other words, lied. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you do. You specifically outlined it to 10th man, you're lying. You know what?
Yep.
Oh
No, he's a
my
liar.
gosh! If anyone out there is interested for some reason, I know we got cultural fans out there that love me and chocolate, right? If you watch Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lane's trial, the interesting thing is the only time you can completely determine that anyone is lying on the stand is when they're being asked by the defendant's lawyers questions and they're like, oh, I don't know. But then when the prosecutor's up, they answer everything. And it relates to the same exact audio or the same exact video footage. You're looking at the same exact thing, but when you're being cross-examined by the defendant, all of a sudden you don't know. I don't know. And it's like, Bev was in here. He must have said, I don't know, like 100 times. I just think that's interesting. Sorry.
101.
He's a liar.
On this specific subject, any evidence you can get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Negative. It's an impossibility. Need a flat baseline. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, on a ball, you could do fuck all with an angle. But not on a flat earth.
You beat me to it,
What's
Darwin.
wrong with it?
Did you guys see the screenshots that I posted earlier? Probably not. So I'm
Don't
gonna
be like
go
that.
ahead and post. Huh? What?
Probably not.
Because it was
Bloody
yesterday.
martyr.
It was yesterday. I'm gonna have to look up in Master B to find it.
I mean, in reality, no, I didn't. But that's not the point.
But most of us do see them. I just haven't been in there for a while, so I personally haven't seen them.
A quick shout out to Chris Berry, I believe it was. I recognise the thumbnail. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, it was Chris Berry. Just from the thumbnail. He says he has never been a flat earther. Bev lies. Thank you very much for the super chat, Chris Berry.
See, Chris Berry had came in when I went there, and they really harassed him. So I got no love lost for that crew over there. And Emma, you know what you could do.
Yeah, again, I don't want to divine the motivations of these Muppets. It's just show them where they're wrong. You know, in regards to Emma, she came in and just threw a load of ad homs out. And when I tried to
Fuck you,
detail what an ad
keep
hom was to her, she just rumpused, just talked straight through the middle and accused or justified her actions by saying, I'm just doing what you're doing. And when I attempted to explain, no, a justification for calling somebody stupid is demonstrating them as stupid, which is what we were doing. She wouldn't accept it. She was like, no, I just want to use my excuses to throw out personal attacks without in any way addressing the argument. But there we go. That was her input into the discussion. Not very constructive. Another shout out to Chris Berry. Thank you very much, Chris Berry. Bev lie stinking. Yes, that's Bev. Good one. I should really read these before I read them, if you know what I mean. Okay. We did get the gas
Back
pressure.
to housekeeping.
Yeah, I was going to say we did get the gas pressure question in, but not quite. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
It's an impossibility. You need the gas to press against something. That's why it's pressure, right?
Indeed. Godzilla37 says, well, Arwin was right on one thing in the debate. Admit you're wrong when you are. Yeah, I think when I was listening to it back when it got premiered only a couple of hours after it was recorded, which is very unusual, I said that when he pointed it out in the chat. When Arwin said that in the show, in the chat, I was like, yes, absolutely, beautifully put, Arwin. Again, me being full of rage, sometimes you miss some of these gems that Arwin comes out with, which is a shame. But I listened and heard in the recording, I was like, yeah, Arwin's right on point. That's really all it boiled down to, and he was the most not concise. He was in with only that point at the moment he said it. He's like, I'm going to interrupt everything to make this point. All it boils down to is admit when you're wrong. That's it. Have a bit of humility. That's it.
Yeah, he hit the nail right in the head. Definitely.
Right.
There we go.
It's always been his issue, and now it came to point. Now he was put on the spot over it, and all he did was just try to avoid it. That's all he was doing.
Yeah. But there we go. Where were we in housekeeping? Any scientific
We
evidence to
ended
grab?
off with gas pressure.
Did we get an answer?
Yeah, I said no. Can't have gas pressure out of container. Next.
Hold on. Oh, I thought we were on the. Are we still on elevation angles?
Always.
Yeah. All right. I'm posting them again. There's just 3 random screenshots that I found.
Oh, we never look at that shit from you.
It's in the middle.
Okay, I got it.
Let's at least chew on it for a while.
I got it. It's up.
Sorry. So check it out.
Did you want to comment on it? I've got it up for the audience.
Okay, yeah. So the first one, it talks about ballistics, right? Okay. So it says in ballistics, the elevation is the angle between the horizontal plane and the axial direction of the barrel of a gun, mortar, or heavy artillery. Well, what do you know? And there it has an a right triangle showing you all of the math and whatnot. So the next one, when I typed in what are angles of elevation and depression used for, because Bev said you could do fuck all with an angle, after I thought we were making some headway, when he said, well, you can do stuff with it, but then he, doubled down later on. So it says angles of elevation are an angle that is measured upwards from the ground or horizontal line. Angles of depression are angles measured downwards from the horizontal. These angles can be used to find the horizontal and vertical distance of one object from another. Yep. So the last one, or is that the same one that I posted? Yeah. So yeah, pretty much. I can't find the third one right now.
Did you want me to put the third one up?
I'm looking for it, but right now,
No, that's okay. No, cool. You got your point in during yesterday's discussion as well. And I've got to be honest, the ballistics one I hadn't heard before. I must swipe that because I like when someone's like, well, anything similar to this. You can't do anything with an angle, for instance, right? It's nice to go and dig out, I don't know, it's probably up to about 20, 25 citations now detailing what an elevation angle does. But I don't think I've got the ballistics one, so I'd like to add that. So, very handy. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
If you go, hang on. If you watch the World Cup, all they did was comment on the football players picking the right angle as they shot the ball into the goal or made passes. The angles are used all the time.
Yes, there's lots you can do with an angle. And you can hear the beautiful poetry of one deck in the pre-show in that exact regard. So, yeah.
Well, you only say that when you're talking to a baller and you're trying to win an argument. Sometimes you just have to lie.
He didn't say sometimes you have to lie, although you basically just almost verbatim quote what Bev said to justify him being so wrong. Well, I was saying it to Ruhif. What? So fundamentally being wrong or lying is okay? What?
As long as it's to a baller, right?
I don't know.
I don't particularly
Right,
like
but
that point because
Doesn't it just mean that if he thinks like that, that it's not for him even about trying to figure out what reality is? It's just about being right in the moment.
Well, Adam
Apparently,
summarised
that's
that, didn't
more
he?
important to him than
about truth.
actually building long-term cohesive arguments. Then
That was at the right at the end. Adam summarised it. It's like, what is your game? Because it's not about truth. You're demonstrating people as liars. You know, you say, "Oh, why is it that you've reduced our very coherent, complex dissemination of what is relatively simple once you've got your head around it? That's celestial navigation. Why are you undermining it by reducing it to what you can and can't do with just a mere angle? When angles are very useful in the first instance, so that's a stupid argument to begin with. But the only reason it's being presented is because of what we're doing. I mean, it's just sad.
Lest we forget, refracted curvature went on a debate show, said you can have it all. I just have two questions for you. And Ruhif had it all, got to say what he had to say and everything else. And John, refracted curvature, said, well, how'd you measure that? Was that an elevation angle? So why didn't John, well, let me put it this way. Why did John use the elevation angle and say you can have the rest of your Narnia fantasy globe world? I just need this because this is how it's done. And why would someone say to Ruhif, you can do F all with it? When John uses this killer point and it destroys the globe as a surface you can navigate on. Because the globe is curved and you need a baseline.
Okay. I know we haven't got all the way through housekeeping, but we've done the majority of it, and we're going to cover a bit of Brian Cox. Oh, it's on a... Of course it is, it's Brian Cox. It's on a British show called This Morning, which is terrestrial UK TV. So we're going to get into this, and hopefully it's relatively easy going, because I'm quite knackered. We'll see. We'll see how we get on. In the first few seconds, I'm just going to level it up, guys, so just give me a sec. I'm doing this cold.
Forces of nature.
Yeah.
So in what areas? What are you looking at?
Well, the idea is that if you look at the world that we see,
What's this titled? Sorry, let's just get that dealt with. So this is Brian Cox reveals why the world is round on This Morning. Okay, cool.
green leaves, the blue skies.
Oh, I should ask as well. Is there anything you wanted to preempt this with as you took it out 10th?
Yeah, look for the potato illustration towards the end.
Wait, did you say round? I thought the world was spherical. What is it with this round now?
I think they're just. I think
they don't like
just
specificity.
I think they're just disking us, Neil.
That was my thought, Neil, as well. As soon as Nathan read the title,
Why are they not saying sphere? Why round? Why this ambiguous word which does not necessarily relate to a sphere?
I said that about Bill Nye yesterday. Like, it actually kind of annoys me that these people will all say, "Oh, it's round, it's round, it's round." Yeah. I got quarters that are round. They're also flat, they're not spherical. Like, why don't you guys try to be a little bit more specific?
There it is. Let me answer it. The chocolate did it for me. I was waiting for someone. I was waiting for someone to do it. In other words, let it go, let it play out rather than explain why it's done that way. So what chocolate's just done is offered up, albeit via a very loose simile or whatever you call it, a claim. So we're talking about Earth. It's there in the title. Earth is round. Why say round? Why not say spherical? So you're affirming their position. That's the first bit, right? So you're saying spherical rather than them. Okay, that's bad. Secondly, you offered up an example of something that is round but flat like a coin. Ergo, chocolate's now on the back foot because he's going to damn well defend that as his Earth that he is reifying because I've decided that's how this is going to play out. So in my humble opinion, it's done to put you on the back foot, reaffirm their claim, or what's the word, clarify their claim for them, and offer up your repositioning of what they've stated, putting you in a false dichotomy should they choose to take what you've just gifted them, chocolate. That's what I think.
Well, I could come with chocolate here and say that in celestial navigation, they use the great circle called the equatorial plane, and it's round and it's flat. So chocolate, you got backup.
Yeah, bro.
Word directed to me. Godzilla37 says, the best the globe has got is someone named Cox. Kind of says it all for me. I don't understand. I don't really follow.
That's a cable network out here. Keep going.
So, just really quick, I'm on Facebook, right? And this guy says, the only truth in the evidence I've witnessed from both sides of the flat earth versus globe argument is that we've all been lied to by whoever runs our world to ensue chaos will keep everyone blinded from whatever the truth is. It doesn't seem that either side cares about proving the truth and merely wants to argue, and other side lacks intelligence. So I said,
That's not true.
this is a prime opportunity to share the live show and tell him, well, things are slightly different over here. So I went to YouTube and I typed in Nathan Oakley and realized, wow, he's live right now, and I can't even find his live even when I type his name in. So on the back of what I just said about Facebook, the thing that I now want to highlight is that perhaps you refer to yourself as Nathan Oakley 1980 at all times, so that when people are listening and they tell people about you, they tell people about you as if your name is your YouTube moniker.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's like that. There's so many Nathan Oakleys, right?
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Yeah, subscribe today to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Are we going to get around to what Brian Cox is saying?
Yeah.
Planets. All those things are telling you something about the deeper structure that underlies nature. So even life. So next week's is about the origin of life. So it's how did we feel living is a very special thing.
Okay, I don't follow where he's started. So if this is a discussion about why Earth is round, is he talking Big Bang? Maybe
Yeah, he said planets, and he's getting, he's just greasing the skids.
Okay.
But it's a property of matter, of this stuff. The Earth was once just a dead world when it formed.
What? Says who? Who says it was a dead world when it was first formed? Why? Why is he making this assertion? I suppose we're only early doors, so.
Does he have any evidence of that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. As backed by what? But maybe he's about to get there.
And at some point, that matter came alive.
And you go to some really...
Excuse me? What's just matter spontaneously sprung into life? What's he babbling about?
What's the first law of thermodynamics?
Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Energy and matter cannot be created. Or
Yeah,
destroyed.
energy and matter. Yeah, my bad.
Could I plug a show?
Your timing's terrible, but yeah, feel free.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. So, Dr. James Torr has an episode about abiogenesis where he rips Professor Wannabe Dave a new origin of life hole. It's great. He's committed himself to debunking all of Professor Dave's stuff.
And that is
The
perfect.
series ongoing right now, so it's just came out like this week.
Okay.
It's a
Hold on, Ted, hold on. I don't understand. What's abiogenesis? Can you explain it to me, please? Because that's a very big word that I've never heard before.
It basically is in the word Genesis, bio-A, so Genesis from non-living things, so life from non-life. It's just, an idea that is what that paradigm that he just said needs. You have no life, then all of a sudden you have life. So how did that happen?
But didn't spontaneous generation, it was disproven in the 1500s, wasn't it?
What? Like life can't poof itself into existence out of non-existence? That's not cool.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, so violation of the first law.
In some of QE's presentations, he has a part where he describes functional sequence specified complexity, and he examples it by describing a guy at a beach making a very, very complicated sand castle. Yeah? And the complexity that is involved with life is equivalent to a wave coming in while this guy's making his intricate sand castle. And the wave, with obviously sand in the water, delivers to the beach a 14-story skyscraper with a full ensuite for every apartment and a gym. That's the equivalent. Like life spontaneously poofing itself into existence with the most complicated and intricate details beyond most of our comprehension here today. Not all. But just out of nothing. So much more complicated than anything we could ever create as human beings. Just poofing itself into existence because a wave landed on the shore randomly. Yeah, total nonsense.
It's a 14-part series that AI is talking about. I think it's part 3 is out now. It's very good.
And part 3's on Professor Dave.
No, all of it's going to be on Professor Dave. He rips them.
All of it.
Oh yeah, he's taking Dave on.
Okay, presumably he's not in any way affiliated with us. He's not flatty. He's just a guy taking apart Dave's nonsense, right?
No, he's not affiliated with us. He even mentions in one of his earlier videos, again, this is what I'm trying to say, how scientism has got in. He even mentions a reference to Galileo, how they were persecuting him. So,
isn't that interesting? So, just in case anybody from YouTube's watching, what you promote above us as flat earthers, as the preferred, trusted content, is bullshitters like Dave, who get pulled apart, not by us, but the people around him as a complete bullshitter. But that's, I'm not addressing YouTube anymore. In some ways, that kind of does raise the question of why is it that scummy idiots and scammers and charlatans get pushed to the top of the list? Dave is a complete farce, isn't he? He's lying about his accreditation in the first instance, and his own title is a bullshitter. But he's promoted to the top of the list, the biggest Billy bullshitter out there, the biggest faker, who's getting exposed left, right, and centre by all sides. He's the one that's promoted to the top of the anti-flat Earth lists. Isn't that interesting? That's the preferred content.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Also,
it's interesting.
I'm just saying, right? At some point, it may be algorithmic, but at some point, there's been obviously a Congress-led changed to how YouTube promoted Flat Earth. And at that point, there was a line drawn, and any semblance of me reaching the top of lists for people just disappeared in an instant, right? But obviously, there's got to be a point that somebody says, right, well, what are we going to put in place? Because we've told Congress we'll be promoting favoured, reputable content. So if you're going to substitute one for the other, in terms of globe Earth rhetoric, I can think of, because I used to be a bloody globie, 100 different sources of material that could easily be slotted on top of Flat Earth. In other words, like when Red Rhetoric was the main opposition. He had 20,000 subs, and Jaron had more. Jaron was the one benefiting from the subject, while the anti-Flat Earther, Red Rhetoric, certainly wasn't. I was kind of puzzled over that too. I was like, why is that the case? Surely the one with the mainstream rhetoric would be the guy that got all the support, not the other way around. But back in the day, it was Jaron that was, running away with the numbers, and not Red Rhetoric. Weird, right?
That's because that's the true public opinion.
Maybe,
Nothing
but
weird about that.
I'm going somewhere. I'm nearly there. So I can think of 100 different sources of material. I example one quite frequently where a guy just details how we felt about the moonrise. Bullshit imagery from a sky vacuum. Well, you could easily just slip all of that kind of stuff. The normies, the kind of guy that's attacking Dave. That's Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel, right? That guy, he's not an anti-flat earther, but he could easily be slotted into the list above us, right? When you search the subject, could he not? Talking about globe.
Yep.
Instead, we get anti-flat earthers that are bullshitters. And that's the bit. I'm sure there's plenty of non-charlatan globies. That's my point.
I get your point now. So you're saying, why aren't there just average Joes or even, heliocentric sycophants that actually purport the actual globe Earth arguments? Why are there instead these anti-flat earthers propagated who don't even, go with the rhetoric that they should be pushing?
Yeah. Not only that, the ones that they get promoted the most are people like Dave, who literally, even his title is a lie, and he's exposed by other non-flatties as a liar. So it just seems to me, it kind of, you kind of raise your eyebrows, right? So the anti-flat Earth rhetoric comes from liars. That's how I see this.
Hey Nathan, I didn't catch who was the person making those videos. Can somebody tag that in the main chat of Discord?
Which videos? The guy that was doing a 13-part series on Dave?
Yeah. And also to piggyback off of what Elijah was saying earlier, I noticed that too. I typed in Nathan Oakley so that way I could listen on the YouTube. And I noticed that the only thing that came up was Nathan Oakley 80. Not even your Nathan Oakley 1980 came up. And I was like, what? So I literally had to type in 1980 with a space after Nathan Oakley, and then it showed you. I'm like, wow, they're who's in control of this? Why are they censoring you so much?
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I wanted to, because I kind of want to pile on, and there might be a bit of resistance from you, but allow me. So it would be maybe algorithmic, maybe one could justify this and go to sleep at night and go, it is what it is, but it's harder to justify when you add everything that you've said, Nathan, to the fact that it's not just flat Earth specifically, because they had a conversation about flat Earth. It happens to be all of the topics that are at the time a part of the magic trick, as you've termed the last 2 years, right? So whenever it's about that kind of stuff, the last 2 years that's suppressed. Whenever it's about independent journalism, it just so happens that the CNNs and the NBCs of the world get propped up. Even, the subdivisions like I'm not going to give them any shine anyway. I'm not going to say their names. But then there are other channels that have had the same subscriber count since I've been watching them. But they're reporting what's actually in the source material that everybody has available. They're the only ones actually reporting on it, you know, without any bias. And they're the ones that are being suppressed. So it just seems like a massive effort to suppress truth. It's not just flat, it's just truth in general. That's kind of ominous.
Hi guys. There's also an author called Stephen C. Myers, the CIS, and similar to what QE did and what Brian Cox was just currently talking about. He talks about how complex life is, and it cannot be a mistake, and he gives a lot of good examples. The return of the God hypothesis might be worth a listen.
100 people watching. Should we move on a bit with Brian Cox? See if he goes anywhere with his round earth.
Yes, potato.
Destinations, and as you can see there from that tiny bit that we showed, I mean, it's beautiful. Like, it's beautifully shot, and you see some incredible things that you wouldn't necessarily have to get to see.
Yeah, I think that was the idea, to send film crews out, and it's sort of the way.
Send a film crew where? I've lost track of where this is going. Does anybody follow where he's going with this? Where are they talking about?
You're going to get there.
Way you mentioned David Attenborough earlier, the way that his programs work, where a film crew can go and for months even film something spectacular. And we saw that wave on that clip through the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, incredible tidal wave.
Just like he's having a little chit chat about stuff he's watched on the telly. Other than him asserting that you can create something from nothing, and life comes from just poofing into existence, where's the Earth being around it?
Goes up the river, and you see in the film that someone spends their life surfing it. So there's kind of his whole thing is to wait for this wave and surf into the jungle of the Amazon.
How often does it come along?
This guy's an astrophysicist. Why is he talking about this?
He's warming up the crowd before he starts the BS. Come on.
Okay.
It comes when the moon and the sun are aligned. So I think it's about once every couple of months or something like that. The Pororoca it's called.
Well, you're not, because they go out and they sit for months waiting for something to happen, the right thing to happen. You're not there all the time. You're in this.
I still can't keep track of what the hell they're talking about. They're being so vague.
He's talking about the moon and the sun lining up that causes a wave to come up the river, and people down there wait for this and they surf the river.
So he's asserting that the moon's gravity causes the tidal effect in the river.
What? Tidal bores aren't caused by the moon. The topographical based on just on the tides and the way the land's laid out. It's got so he's gonna, because we get tidal bores, therefore it's the moon that's doing it. And the proof is to describe having tidal bores, but not actually.
It's worse than that, brothers. What he's saying is that the heliocentric model with the sun and the moon being responsible for the water's motion is not just the cause of tides, it's the cause of adventure and joy and the wondrous feeling that comes over you after you've been waiting for 3 months for this one wave and you ride it like, yeah!
Okay, that's what I needed to click me into gear. This is a different type of wizardry. No, he's spot on. He's spot on. This is just a different type of wizardry. It's been a while since I've watched Cox. Just been overloaded with Tyson. Right. Lest we forget, right, we're talking about another very skilled magician here. So let's not forget that. But it's just, you've got to get a few maybe clips in before we get into the type of wizardry, right? But that is spot on.
I was going to ask Owen, the resident expert, what type of wizards have we got here, Owen? Because this is very different bullshittery to NDTs, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah.
Remember though, guys, things can only get better.
Well, it's a higher entertainment factor from Cox, isn't it? You see.
Look how
That was his
engaged
song, wasn't it?
Schofield is.
I don't forget.
I can see why too, because I'm doing that, screwing my face up, wanting to know more. So, props already. I like this. We'll have to do much more Cox. I'm already into this. This is good. Bit of mystery. Should we carry on?
This one less, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, that was the idea, to film these beautiful things. You can't, if I'm there, it's kind of, you can't spend all that time. We had different crews out at the same time filming things.
Right, so he segued between the beautiful stuff in the nature programme to what he's doing. Okay, right, now we're all clear. It's all starting to come into place.
And then the idea was to try and stitch it together. Essentially...
Stitch what together? Still don't know what he's really talking about. There's a cut there, so presumably this was a longer piece that they've edited for this YouTube clip, but I would assume this was a longer section than 3 minutes and 41 seconds, but they've just chunked out a bit there.
You asked the question, what is it? What's the biggest, the top...
Somebody's at my door. Can you guys talk amongst yourselves for a second?
I'm tired of the nonsense.
I know what he's doing is he's taking everyday life experiences and tying it to a spinning globe somehow. That's what he's getting you in that frame of mind.
Yeah,
and
he's eliminating God.
And, well, of course, because they're all atheists. It's Big Bang. So it's just taking everyday life experiences, doing a nice story, talking the way he does, and the imagery. And so it just lulls you into the next thing he's going to lie to you about.
Wouldn't that be loose association?
Nothing in my life experience describes a spinning ball.
Oh, it gets
exactly chocolate.
Chocolate. He gets so crazy. The ball is a potato.
Right, but he's doing a loose association magic trick, right?
Yeah.
Where he describes two things, and then he allows you to put them together in your mind.
Yep.
Correct.
It's funny, that group he used to sing with, that song, Things Can Only Get Better, the group name was Dream. He's living in a bloody dream.
It's D-Ream.
Tallest mountain you could make on a planet like the Earth. What sets that? So you've got the Earth's gravity, which depends on its mass, really, how much stuff is in the Earth. It's pulling it.
I'm really sorry. Someone else is at my door. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think it's because people are sending presents and they want signing for. Can you talk amongst yourselves a second?
Yeah, he brought up the Earth's gravity. Don't we have a quote from him saying gravity's not a force?
Yeah, what is gravity? Did he prove gravity? Why are they talking about it like it's scientifically validated?
He also said mass.
I'm sure he claimed the Earth moved up, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true too. What is mass? Define mass.
Well,
yeah, that's a big one.
He's like we found out during the grade schools, they teach Newtonian mass attracts mass, gravity, but then later they tell you it's never there. It's not a real force, and the Earth is moving up. So he's speaking two sides of his mouth because I believe, if I'm not wrong, we have a quote from him about gravity not being a force.
There isn't really a
not
force
at all.
Correct. There isn't really a force of gravity at all.
Okay, then replay the last 10, 15 seconds and see what he says.
The Earth's gravity, which depends on its mass, really, how much stuff is in the Earth. It's pulling it down, pulling it down. So you can imagine there's a force on the ground.
You can imagine there's a force, but there isn't one. It's bending pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending. So, no, we can imagine it. What, because you give us permission? Very George Musa-esque permission you've given us there, Cox, to imagine a force that isn't a force, that you can think of as a force, right? No, it's not. Bending space-time. Show me a bag of time, then show me you bending it, then I'll accept the Einsteinian nonsense of gravity, which is definitely not a force according to you. Not really a force at all. End quote, Brian Cox. So what is it? We can imagine it, or it isn't really a force at all. Which one is it? Yeah, we know, because we know what Einstein is. A bending fourth dimension. Definitely not a force. So no, I'm not going to imagine a force pulling down on a ball that you've just presupposed for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Why are we suddenly assuming forces that aren't forces on balls that you haven't proven? I'm too knackered for this, although I do like good wizardry.
Ground. And the bigger you build the thing, the more the force is. And you can work out, well, what is it when that force overwhelms the strength of the rock?
Hold up.
Yeah, go on, Adam.
You see, you're now accepting, aren't you? You've now accepted the premise that mass creates gravity, because the bigger the mass, the more the gravity. But I'd just like to say it is fantastic wizardry, because he doesn't tell you anything. He invites you in, doesn't he? You can imagine. So from that point on, every bit he said, no, it's not his fault how you interpret it, because he's invited you to imagine it as a force. Now let's proceed from there. And he's very mild-mannered, and you missed those bits. It took me a sec to get that, you know. But that's subtly what he's done there.
You know what he does? You know what he does with his accent? Because he's well-spoken. He uses a U instead of an A when he says can. You can imagine, he says. You can imagine. Says it very quickly. Makes it that little bit softer. If you emphasise the A, you can imagine, would be a lot less subtle.
Rock, and it starts to sink. It's actually on Earth, the mountain Mauna Kea, which is one of the Hawaiian volcanoes. It's actually taller than Everest, if you measure.
Throw in a random fact after disclaiming that you're going to be imagining stuff. Now cement you back in reality and reality-based measurements. Yeah? So that you forget that you're fantasizing gravity because he's talking about real stuff, right?
From the surface of the seafloor. And that's sinking. So that's as tall as it can get.
Sinking.
Yeah, so it's too heavy.
So that is as tall as they go.
Yeah.
They could go here.
So if you've got a big enough planet with enough gravity, essentially.
Big enough planet with enough gravity, that requires R values, orbital motions, assumptions of forces that are not forces, gravitational accretion in violation of first laws of thermodynamics. No, I'm not going to assume any of that. Why? Especially when we're measuring and navigating a flat plane. Definitely wouldn't be assuming anything in the sky is a planet. None of you have been there. Nobody's travelling to the lights in the sky through sky vacuums. So all of your assertions about what these quote-unquote planets are is wrong. You definitely haven't visited and studied and observed. Can't, because the claimed place they are to observe them in your worldview is a sky vacuum, in violation of natural law. And no, we're not going to assume any of this, Cox.
Essentially. Then anything that gets too big will sink. And gravity just works in it. It doesn't care which angle you're at. So
Sorry, sinks in gravitational terms. So what he's saying is mass attracts mass. It's going to sink in, and he saw his hand movements in terms of the way he's showing it all coalesce. No, entropy doesn't work in that direction. Entropy works the other way. So he's describing, as I said before he said it, a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy law violation. No. Stuff doesn't coalesce.
So
He pushes it back.
into a circle, to a sphere.
No, definitely not. Gas doesn't do that. In your world of gases attracting other gases to form by way of pseudo-Ramonian force-based time bending, total nonsense, into spheres, then that violates the description of what gases actually do as they disperse in all directions at a high velocity to fill whatever volume they've got. They don't form suns and planets when they coalesce. That's not how gases behave. They're not attracted to each other. Easily demonstrable, in line with natural law. So no, this complete fantasy that Cox is now selling you sits outside of natural law.
If it's big enough. And then you look out into the
If it's big enough, it'll coalesce? No, it doesn't make any difference how big it is. Talking about gases, they just expand in all directions.
solar system are little moons, about less than about 150 miles across or something like that.
Doesn't know how big they are. To make any assertion about the size and scale of any moons moving around planets, this is lights in the sky that he observes, he'll need to apply several presuppositions. One of which would be that Earth is a sphere. The second is that we have orbital mechanics and moons moving around in an orbital fashion. The third is that Venus has the same R value that's presupposed in a spherical Earth to give you scaling values in Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion to give you the distances. So therefore, he has to assume all of those things to make an assertion about how big a light in the sky is. Now, the main premise of that is R. Earth with an R value, radius. Venus with the same R value, fixed at 3959. Well, that value has been debunked. So no, definitely not. All of these assertions we can debunk by way of the begging the question fallacies that you use to employ them. So no. Definitely not.
Have not got enough gravity, so they're all misshapen. It's
Enough gravity. Gravity is a pseudo-Riemannian force-based time bending. Show me it. That would be time bending. Then qualify it with how much. How many time bendings are you going to put in this bag that you show me when you qualify how much of it you've got? No, there isn't a qualifiable amount of gravity in pseudo-force-based time.
This is for Thames potato, this next line.
called the potato radius.
What? The potato radius? No, definitely not. You see, Brian made this really clear yesterday in our discussions with Bev Try Thinking, when he was explaining how the maps are actually developed, with angle measurements working their way across the map with something we describe as latitude lines. And they're areas of equal elevation measured from Polaris as it drops to the horizon. Now, if you bastardise in any way or change the radius of Earth, they don't work. It all goes out the window, has to be fixed. What's he talking about? Potato radius. Smug git. Check out that teeth, man.
So you get
That's a good
potato
name.
shapes.
I can say that one.
With the potato radius.
Show us with the
Oh yeah. So well, the way that I demonstrated it, you just wanted to get messy, don't you?
Of course we did.
So
What the hell's he babbling about? If Earth had a potato radius, then it wouldn't work with any of the maps. Because they've back-engineered elevation angle measurements to Polaris to develop them. So it can't have anything other than a radius of 3959 as asserted, something we can debunk. What's he babbling about?
Maybe he's just bringing all his chips in for the final bet.
So the way that we demonstrated it in the program is say, so what am I doing? If I want to make that into a ball, then I have to apply enough force to overcome the... If I don't apply enough force, then it'll...
So in your physical example with some sand, you need force. Gravity isn't going to give you that, though, is it? Gravity isn't a force. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote, Brian Cox. So what's forcing it? Bending space-time? No, time's a convention. So what are you going to do? Bend things with conventions? I know what I'll form this ball with. I'll form it with freedom. Definitely not.
Stay like some sort of misshape, potato shape. So that's what gravity is doing, really. It's
doing? What? The bending fourth-dimensional space-time that Einstein invented? That doesn't do anything. It's a description of a bending space-time, a conventional fourth-dimensional medium that isn't real. We don't live in a fourth dimension. There is no time dimension to bend. It certainly isn't a force.
Acting as a force that's squat.
There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote, Professor Brian Cox.
Pushing it down, and it'll turn it into a sphere because it acts the same in every direction.
Hello, YouTube.
Acts? No, non-forces don't act. They're not forces. They're not performing either. So no, definitely not. Is that the end, presumably, as they're cutting away to a plug for something else and Cox isn't on screen? Was that it? Did it end on that potato-based baseless assertion?
Just play through the commercial or fast forward.
For more of the same, just click here and don't forget.
I accidentally punched him in the face once.
No, I don't think there's anything else.
All right.
That's it. So just a baseless assertion at the end about potato radius. Why? How does it work with the latitude lines when you're measuring elevation angle measurements to Polaris? Don't they have to sit on the map with exacting numbers? Total bullshitter.
That's real world. Anyway, so the force is going to turn it into a sphere? Really? What force?
How can the same guy say there really isn't a force of gravity at all, put his hands over some sand and say gravity is doing this when he totally says there isn't a force?
Guys, he's a heliocentric con man. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Lucky day.